The unveiling the silk of Eliza's gown whispered against her skin as she adjusted the neckline, her fingers brushing the hollow where her grandmother's emerald brooch should have rested. The absence was a quiet ache, a missing piece of her. "History, you look stunning," James murmured behind her, his reflection appearing in the mirror. His tuxedo was immaculate, his smile polished the perfect image of a man ready to conquer Boston's political scene. Even without it, "It's been missing for weeks," she said, turning to face him. "That brooch survived 2 wars and 3 generations. It's not just jewelry." James cupped her cheek, his cologne wrapping around her like a familiar lie. "We'll find it, or I'll commission something even grander." His thumb traced her jaw before he checked his watch. "The guests will arrive soon. Ready?" She nodded, smoothing her dress. At 42, Eliza had built a reputation as a curator with an eye for brilliance. Tonight's exhibit would launch unknown artists, the proceeds funding arts education. Was also James's unofficial debut as a mayoral hopeful, a chance to charm donors. "Vivian confirmed the press will arrive at 8, James said, straightening his cufflinks. "She's arranged interviews with the Globe and Herald." Liza's spine stiffened at the mention of Vivian Chen. Consultant had entered there. Lived 6 months ago, a whirlwind of sharp wit in emerald green dresses. Hired to manage PR for James's latest high-rise. At 34, Vivian moved through Boston's elite like she owned them, and James adored her for it. "I'm sure Vivian has everything under control," Eliza said. Her voice cooled. James either didn't notice or didn't care. "She does. That's why I pay her so well." He kissed her cheek and left, his phone already at his ear. The gallery hummed. With champagne flutes and murmured compliments, Eliza glided through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries. But her gaze kept drifting to James, laughing with investors. His hand resting too long on Vivian's arm. Then she saw it. Vivian stood near a sculpture, her laughter ringing like wind chimes. And there, pinned to her dress, was the emerald brooch. The antique setting gleamed under the lights, unmistakable. Eliza's glass slipped in her hand. Mrs. Morgan, Theodore Blackwell, the city's most feared art critic, appeared beside her. "You've outdone yourself. This collection speaks to tradition and rebellion." "Thank you," she managed, her eyes locked on the brooch. She excused herself and crossed the room, her pulse a drumbeat in her ears. Vivian turned, her smile bright. "Eliza, the exhibit is breathtaking." "Your brooch," Eliza said, her voice steady, despite the storm inside. "Where did you get it?" Vivian's fingers fluttered to the emerald. "A gift. Isn't it exquisite?" Before she could answer, James materialized, his face paling. "Eliza, the mayor's asking for you? He can wait." Eliza didn't look away from Vivian. "This brooch belonged to my grandmother. Went missing weeks ago." Vivian's smile faltered. "It's missing." James never said. Later, James cut in, gripping Eliza's elbow. "Tonight's about the artists." For a heartbeat, Eliza considered, causing a scene. Instead, she smiled. "Of course, we'll discuss this later." As she walked away, the emerald's glint taunted her. The brooch was just the beginning. The real question was, what else had James stolen? The morning after the gallery, Eliza sat alone in her kitchen, sunlight pooling on the marble countertops like spilled gold. Her untouched coffee had gone cold. James hadn't come home just to text about an emergency meeting. She knew better. The panic in his eyes when she'd spotted the brooch had told her everything. The doorbell rang. Down the steps stood Melian Crawford, her oldest friend and Boston's most ruthless divorce attorney. Meline's sharp bob barely moved as she pushed past Eliza, a leather portfolio tucked under her arm. "It looked like hell," she said, kissing Eliza's cheek. "Good, you should," Eliza exhaled. "What's the damage?" Meline slapped her phone on the counter. Gossip blog's headlines screamed, "Morgan's Emerald Scandal. Developer's mistress wears wife's heirloom to gala." Below a blurry photo. Of Vivian, the brooch glinting, her body angled too close to James in a shadowed corner. Eliza's stomach twisted. How did this leak so fast? Someone's feeding the press. Meline scrolled to the comment speculation about James's mayoral. Bid crumbling? Whispers of Eliza's humiliation? Worse, Vivian filed a police report this morning, claims James stole the brooch from her. Eliza laughed hollow. She's lying, obviously, but she's smart. The report frames you both as thieves. Malene tapped the screen, and look at this. A buried paragraph mentioned Project Emerald James's waterfront development. The words foreign investors and forged documents leaped out. Eliza's phone buzzed. Unknown number. We need to talk. Nor wine bar. 1 p.m. Viemlin snatched the phone. It's a trap. She'll have photographers waiting, or she knows something. Eliza stared at the brooch's photo. I need answers. Noir was dim, all velvet curtains and whispered conversations. Lisanne Malene took a corner booth early. At exactly 1 p.m., Vivian walked in. No emerald brooch, no designer dress, just a plain blouse, her hair pulled back, face bare. She looked human. Thank you for coming, Vivian said, sliding into the booth. Her gaze flicked to Malene. I'd hoped to speak alone. Malene smirked. Not happening. Vivian set a velvet pouch on the table. First, I want to return this. Her voice wavered. James gave it to me 3 weeks ago. Said it was a family piece. I didn't know it was yours. Liza didn't touch the pouch. You expect me to believe that? Vivian's fingers clenched. Our relationship wasn't just business. She stopped, jaw tight. It doesn't matter. I saw your face last night. I ended it. Malene snorted. How noble. Project Emerald, Eliza pressed. What is it? Vivian leaned in. District, James promised. A lie. The real plans are for luxury condos, a private marina. The investors, they're dangerous. I think James is in over his head. Before she could continue, the air shifted. James stood at the bar, his lawyer Victor. Beside him, his expression darkened as he spotted them. Ladies. James's voice was ice. Plotting my downfall? Vivian stood, trembling. I'm done lying for you. James grabbed her wrist. Careful, Vivian. You're not innocent here. A flash of photographer hidden near the door. Malene yanked Eliza toward the exit. Leaving. Outside, Eliza's phone buzzed. Another news alert. Brooch battle escalates. Chen files theft report against Morgan. Malene cursed. She just gave it back to you. Lisa clutched the velvet pouch. The emerald was the least of her problems. Now, Detective Nora Patel's office smelled like stale coffee and paperwork. Eliza sat across from her, spine rigid, while Marcus Trent, her newly hired criminal defense attorney, flipped through a file. Let me get this straight, Detective Patel said, tapping her pen. He claimed the brooch is a family heirloom, but Vivian Chen alleges James stole it from her after a personal loan. That's absurd, Eliza said. James doesn't borrow money from employees. Marcus slid away. Folder across the table. Insurance records, provenance documents, and a copy of the will. The brooch has been in Mrs. Morgan's family for generations. Patel skimmed the papers, then sighed. Here's the problem. Miss Chen provided text messages showing James promised the brooch as collateral. And now there's this. It flipped open another Fila property deed with Eliza's signature. Transferring her family's waterfront land to Morgan Development, Eliza's breath caught. That's not my signature. It's a forgery, Marcus said smoothly. We'll have it analyzed. The door swung open. A tall man in a Navy suit entered. Agent Dominic Harris, FBI Financial Crimes. Actually, he said, this goes deeper than a brooch. He dropped a photo on the table. James shaking hands with a silver-haired man at a dockside warehouse. Recognize him? Eliza's stomach dropped. Sergei Volkov, Russian oligarch with ties to money laundering. Project Emerald isn't just condos, Harris said. It's a shell game. Your husband's been funneling illegal funds through your family's foundation. Flashback. 3 weeks earlier, James paced their bedroom, phone pressed to his ear. The deal's falling apart. Volkov wants guarantees.
Eliza.
Half asleep murmured, what deal? He hung up abruptly. Nothing. Development stuff. Now in the interrogation room, the pieces clicked. The brooch wasn't a gift. It was a bribe. James gave it to Vivian to ensure her silence. Present. The police station steps reporters swarmed as Eliza and Marcus exited. Mrs. Morgan, did you know about your husband's fraud? Marcus blocked them, but one shout cut through. Vivian, Chen just held a press conference. On a nearby screen, Vivian stood at a podium, face pale but determined. James Morgan manipulated me. He used the brooch to buy my silence, but I won't lie anymore. She held up a flash drive. Truth is here. The crowd erupted. Eliza's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Check the foundation's safe. You'll understand. A friend that night. The foundation office side twisted the safe style. Inside, next to stacks of documents, lay a velvet box. She opened it, a second emerald brooch, identical to hers. Marcus inhaled sharply. Replica. James swapped them. The one Vivian had was fake. Eliza's hands shook. The forgery wasn't just on paper. Then the lights went out. A shadow moved in the doorway. The lights flickered back on. Vivian stood in the doorway, one hand clutching her side, blood seeped between her fingers. Her usual polished composure was shattered, her breath ragged. They know I talked, she gasped. Eliza rushed forward. Instincts overriding distrust. Who did this? James's partners. Vivian winced as Marcus guided her into a chair. Volkov's men. They think I have the real brooch. She locked eyes with Eliza. But you do. And the proof. Eliza hesitated, then opened the safe again, pulling out the duplicate brooch. Why did James make a replica? Vivian laughed bitterly. Because the original is the key. She reached into her jacket, pulling out a crumpled document of faded 19th century deed. Your grandmother's brooch isn't just jewelry. It's a safe deposit key for a vault in Zurich. Land titles, bearer bonds enough to sink James and Volkov if it goes public. Marcus took the deed, scanning it. This ties the waterfront land to an old Harrington family trust. If James forged the sale, it's not just fraud, it's international. Embezzlement. I crashed downstairs. Voices. Heavy footsteps. Vivian's face went pale. They're here. Flashback. 2 months earlier, Vivian sat across from James in his office. Her fingers tracing the emerald brooch he'd just given her. It's beautiful, she said. James smirked. It's insurance. You keep quiet about the Zurich transfers, and it's yours. But when she'd examined it later, she noticed the clasp was wrong. Faked present. The foundation office Eliza shoved the deed and brooch into her purse. We need to go now. Marcus barred the door just as it shuddered under. A heavy knock. Boston PD, open up. Vivian grabbed Eliza's wrist. It's not the police. A gunshot splintered the door frame. Marcus yanked them toward the fire escape. Move. They stumbled into the alley, the cold air sharp with the scent of salt and gasoline. Vivian's breath came in shallow gasps. There's a car. It's 2 blocks. East. Eliza hesitated, then hooked Vivian's arm over her shoulder. Why help us? Vivian met her gaze. 'Cause James promised me protection, and then he tried to have me killed. A black SUV screeched around the corner. The black SUV roared toward them, headlights cutting through the alley's gloom. Run. Marcus shoved Eliza and Vivian behind a dumpster just as gunfire erupted. Bullets pinged off brick as they sprinted toward the waiting car, a dented sedan. With its engine running, behind the wheel, Theodore Blackwell, the art critic, his usual sardonic smirk was gone, replaced by grim focus. Get in now. They peeled away, tires screeching. Eliza twisted to see the SUV swerve in pursuit. Theo, what the hell? He spared her a glance. Your grandmother was a friend. I owed her this. Vivian groaned in the back seat, blood staining her blouse. Zurich. The brooch opens box. 800. It's all their land deeds, wire transfers. James and Volkov's entire operation. Marcus dialed the number. Agent Harris? We need extraction. Safe house. Charlestown waterfront. Ethio led them to a crumbling loft above an old fish market. Inside, faded blueprints of Boston's harbor were pinned to the walls, marked with red. X's where the Harrington land had been stolen. Eliza's hands shook as she examined the brooch under a lamp. How does it work? Theo pressed the emerald setting. With a click, the back slid open, revealing a microfilm serial number. Vivian coughed. James never knew. He thought it was just a key. Marcus's. Phone buzzed. Harris is inbound. But we've got company. Outside, car doors slammed. Flashback. 1972, a young Eleanor Harrington, Eliza's grandmother, stood on the same docks, handing a velvet box to a Swiss banker. Hide this. One day they'll come for it. The banker nodded, but the Harringtons. Anything present. The C. James burst in first, gun raised. Hector Reynolds trailed him, face ashen. Give me the brooch. You don't understand what's at stake. You don't. Eliza stepped forward. Grandmother knew Volkov's family would come back for this land. She left proof that it was never yours to sell. James's grip on the gun wavered. You think this ends with me? Volkov will bury you? Sirens wailed. Through the window, FBI agents swarmed the street. Vivian limped to Eliza's side. It's over, James. For a heartbeat, he hesitated, then lunged. A gunshot cracked. James crumpled, clutching his leg. Agent Harris stood in the doorway, smoke curling from his barrel. Dominic Harris, FBI. Everyone. Hands where I can see them. Epilogue. 1 month. Later, the headlines told the story. Morgan indicted. Fraud. Conspiracy. Attempted murder. Volkov extradited. International money laundering scheme unraveled. Vivian Chen granted immunity for cooperation. Eliza stood on the Harrington galleries. Steps. The real brooch pinned to her lapel. Reporters shouted questions, but she ignored them. Watching as Marcus helped Vivian into a car, her testimony had guaranteed James's conviction. Theo sidled up, lighting a cigarette. Still trust me. She smirked. Ask me in another decade. Sighed. The gallery's newest exhibit gleamed. Forged art, deception, and the truth that remains. As the doors opened, Eliza touched the emerald one last time. Not a weapon, not a key. Just a reminder. Some legacies couldn't be stolen.